Welcome to Civ 6 Stories, where we explore alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video game. Games are played on deity, no challenges. Generally, I don't use mods or game modes except for Sucratax Oceans. A great game is epic and tells a story. It has a history. All condensed down into 20 minutes. Along the way, you can learn tips and tricks on how to be a better Civ player, as well as strategies on how to play specific civilizations. Today we are looking at the game I played as Matthias Corvinus of Hungary, one of my favorite civs to play in the Civilization series. As a half-Hungarian currently living in Budapest, it's understandable as to why. I hate doing this, but we decided to lose a turn by moving over one tile to a nice bend in the river that was covering dyes. Hopefully we would be able to make use of some early faith. Yikes, right next to a desert. Okay, not the best start location, but we are Hungary, we can make this work. Ah, the most useless of goody hut gifts. Carry on. We are the first to meet Taruga. That is nice, a little extra science to speed us on our way. Plus, we are hungry. We love the city-states. We are the first to meet Zanzibar. And we are the first to meet Akkad. In 3240 BC, trudging through the snow, we met Pachacuti of the Inca. As our pantheon, we copped out and took Divine Spark. It's the easiest pantheon to take when you don't really know what you want to do with your faith game. Mountains and Mexico City blocked a path to Incan lands, meaning that the only direct route from us to them was through the tundra in the northwest. In 2800 BC, we met Australia, whose lands were south of Taruga. The city-state would likely prove to be a key choke point between us and them. It would be imperative to become their suzerain. We built our second city, Miskolc, a fair distance from our capital. Our strategy was to block off certain territories from our closest neighbors and quickly establish the borders of the core of our empire. This was also the site from which we would be able to access horses. We were always happy to trade early amenities for gold. For Hungary, gold is a precious early resource as it allows us to levy the military units of city-states who we will employ to crush our enemies. We got the best deal from Australia. The Inca were prepared to use the northern route to settle lands we understood to be ours. Foolishly, they left their band of settlers unprotected. We need no other incentive to go to war. Free settler. At the start of the classical era, we, equally as foolish as the Inca, left our new band of settlers unprotected only to see them captured by an Incan scout. We chose free inquiry as our dedication. In 1800 BC, we met Gitarja of Indonesia. We traded some of our honey for a bit of gold that we knew we would need later for levying city-state troops. And, after chasing those pesky settlers through the tundra, we were able to take them back. What's this? Another settler unprotected. We already had plenty of horses to trade and we were interested in gold, so a deal was struck with Australia. In 1520 BC, we founded our third city, Szeged, along the Raba River. Although we would pursue a domination victory, our first district was a holy site in Buda. Our first governor was Amani. She would help us in our quest to control city-states. First, Taruga. Happily, with our discovery of bronze working, we found iron located right near Szeged. That would be important in our war effort. We bought the tile and a builder so we could start working it right away. There is that unattended settler once again. By 1160 BC, we had our first horseman unit. Then John Curtin decided it was in his interest to declare war on me. Okay. Now that we were suzerain of Taruga, Australia's declaration of war was all the incentive we needed to levy their military. This not only gave us a city-state that could act as a bloc, it also gave us era score and placed an additional 2 envoys there. Although Cajamarca now had city walls, they put their settler out where we could steal them. We put our archer in harm's way, but a free settler is worth the sacrifice. We founded Paich in 1120 BC. Our levied troops made short work of the Australian forces that had entered into our territory. The border between Taruga and Ballarat would see a key battle in our war against the Australians. For our Tier 1 government, knowing that warfare would be our primary focus, we chose oligarchy. The great thing about levied troops for Hungary is that they are cheap to upgrade. To counter their pikemen and to lay siege to their cities, we would need swordsmen. In 775 BC, after securing suzerainty of Taruga and moving Amani out, we became suzerain of Zanzibar. The same year, we took Ballarat. Also that year, we became suzerain of Akkad, making us suzerain of 3 city-states. Our troops in the north had beaten down the walls of Cajamarca, but it looked like it would be impossible to take her. At the same time, the Inca had boldly founded the city of Kitukara along the shore of the Gulf of Guayaquil next to Miskolc. In search of more gold, we traded some of our excess resources to Gitarja. As a result of becoming suzerain of 3 city-states, we entered the medieval era with a golden age. Noticing that there was a religion yet to be discovered, even though it looked like we would secure the fifth prophet anyway, which is so incredibly rare this late in a deity game of Civ 6, we decided to choose the Exodus of the Evangelist dedication, hoping to quickly spread our religion in this next phase of the game. After subduing the Australian offensive and cornering the Inca, we decided that, for the medieval era, we would become a republic and dedicate our efforts to a pursuit of world domination through means other than the sword. In 625 BC, we took Sydney. John Curtin and Pachacuti then formed an alliance against us to take back Ballarat. In 600 BC, we founded the city of Kuzeg in the desert. We also earned our great prophet, Siddhartha Gautama. Incan crossbowmen showed up to defend Cajamarca, and we realized that our invasion of the Incan north would bear no fruit, for now. It was time instead to concentrate on taking Kitukara. Oh boy, a little bit of a barbarian problem down there. Our next objective was the Australian-controlled city-state of Ayutthaya. Maybe they could help. In 475 BC, we took Kitukara. Barbarians can only be relied upon to help the AI, never the human player. In 325 BC, we lost control of our troops from Taruga. By the next turn, we had enough money to levy their troops again. We were turning a decent profit, so we figured that they had been a worthy investment until now, and they would follow through on a further investment. Besides, every time you levy the troops of a city-state, you get 2 envoys in that city-state, making them that much harder to flip. In 200 BC, we took Ayutthaya. We waited a couple of turns so that we could do the deed with our spearmen and get the Eureka for military tactics. Knowing that Mexico City would be able to play a crucial role in our ability to evade the Inca, feeling secure in our suzerainty over the other city-states in our territory, we moved Amani into Mexico City. We lost a man-at-arms, brought down by Australian pikemen defending Newcastle. Barbarians were a problem, but we made short work of them with our superior weaponry, and because levied units get a movement bonus, more troops were arriving quickly to keep the pressure on Newcastle. With no way to get boats to my eastern shore, one of my builders was captured by barbarians. It took a while and we lost some troops along the way, but we took Newcastle. In order to levy Mexico City's troops and open a route to invasion through the Inca's southern border, we needed more money. We brokered a pretty decent deal with Catarja for some of our excess amenities, hoping to fund the campaign. Needing to be more frugal with our spending habits during wartime, the professional army policy card is a friend. Staring down the barrel of a potential dark age, and with at least enough faith, if not the infrastructure, to purchase at least one apostle, we decided to finally found our religion. We hoped the era score would help to propel us at least into a normal age. A lack of loyalty can quickly cripple attempts at conquest. We chose Zen meditation for the amenities and stewardship for the science and gold as the cornerstones of our new religion. Our plan worked, and after recruiting the great merchant Zhang Xian, we were assured of avoiding a dark age. With our best troops occupied in the south in the fight against Australia, and without the funds to levy the troops of Akkad, Incan crossbowmen pushed back our obsolete northern warriors. Geelong fell in 300 AD. Inca successfully crossed the mountains again, founding the city of Ayacucho. Although our golden age was over, our closest rivals were in the same boat as us, and we were making good progress taking over Australia. We chose Exodus of the Evangelists as our dedication. We waited until quite late to found our religion. Now was the time to start to spread it. Besides, our missionaries, which we bought at the end of the previous era, all had 2 extra charges because we made sure to purchase them during our Exodus of the Evangelist Golden Age. Although Geelong was flipping loyalty, a governor in the city was all that we needed to keep things on the right track. With our discovery of Divine Right, we were able to upgrade to Monarchy, a Tier 2 government. This also gave us the Eureka for castles, meaning we had unlocked the Black Army unit, one of our unique units. We upgraded one of our horsemen right away. For our Tier 2 government building, it was a no-brainer, as we went with the Grand Master's Chapel. Then, suddenly, I lost a whole lot of troops that I kinda needed, and I didn't have the funds to levy them again. This was definitely going to slow our invasion. I didn't like it, but the gold was good, so we accepted a peace deal with Australia. Now that we were making progress with forging a foothold for our own religion, in 500 AD we launched a religious inquisition to expel Catholicism and Hinduism from our lands. We had refused peace with the Inca, but instead of invasion we mostly kept them at bay while fighting against Australia. It was time to step up our efforts, so we levied Akkad's military. At the first opportunity we switched our government from a monarchy to a theocracy. This would help protect us from the infidels. In 500 AD, we stormed into Ayacucho, a city the Inca had no business founding on lands long thought to be Hungarian. Loyalty became a short-term issue, and Geelong flipped to free cities. The Inca were proving a tough nut to crack, and we could only attack them with crossbowmen levied from Akkad, so we levied Mexico City's troops as well, since they had a couple of musketmen and a trebuchet. We would try to overwhelm the Inca while our Black Army units pillaged their lands. Geelong kept flipping loyalty, but over the long term it was important to keep our presence in the area. We had designs on taking the rest of Australia as soon as possible. Our troops were struggling in the north against Incan armies, and we suffered heavy losses. It was a hastily planned invasion that would not happen quickly. We needed to start making stronger units. We needed corps and armies. In 800 AD, in order to earn the inspiration for nationalism, we declared a holy war against Indonesian Hinduism. We began to pull our troops out of Incan territory. We would need to regroup and strike again at a later time. Once Australia was finished off, all of our troops could rally and deploy together against the Inca. We brokered a peace deal and set to work on taking Australia once and for all. Indonesian caravels attacked Esztergom, a young and undefended city on the coast, threatening to wipe it off the map. Then, they mysteriously fled and refused to finish the job. They had proven faithful servants in my conquest of Australia, but now their lands just seemed in the way, and we decided that the city of Taruga would be better as part of Hungary than as an independent city-state. In 920, with our siegecraft on the way, we declared war. In 980 AD, Canberra, the holy city of Catholicism, abandoned its faith and came over to the Hungarian one true religion. Hungarian forces took Taruga in 1010 AD. Hindu and Catholic holy warriors united to eradicate the Hungarian faith from Canberra. Just to mess with Guitarja and to ensure an industrial era golden age, we pumped all of our available envoys into seizing control of Venice. In 1090 AD, Charles Darwin brought his scientific theories to the Hungarian people. Sensing that we were the mightiest of civilizations, we decided it was also time to make all of Australia part of our invincible empire. 10 years later, the desert city of Kuzeg built Petra. Ayacucho, a disputed city on the Hungarian side of the mountain range separating Hungary and the Inca, seemed impossible to hold. As a result, Incan settlers once again leaked into lands that Hungarians claimed but had not yet settled. Hoping to prevent their expansion, we levied Akkad's forces a second time. The Inca founded a city in the tundra beyond the mountains called Chan Chan. Australia had swooped in and become suzerain of Zanzibar, but we couldn't have that kind of strife on our northern border, so we sent some of our envoys in to reclaim it. In 1120 AD, with the hope of allowing our apostles to scout through Indonesian territory, we offered Guitarja a peace deal. Conquest had never been part of our plan when we declared war. We entered the industrial era in a golden age. In a beautiful twist of fate, both the Inca and Australia descended into dark ages. The stage was set for their destruction and the realization of a whole and united Hungarian continent. Understanding the long-term plan for total world domination, even at this early stage, we chose the to arms dedication. It took longer than expected, but our armies had been incredibly mighty in the early part of the game that we barely noticed. But in 1160 AD, we recruited José de San Martín, our first great general. That same year, we also met Simón Bolívar and Gran Colombia. Since they did not know us long enough to hate us, we immediately traded some of our excess amenities for gold. The next turn, after a short hop across the Eastern Ocean, we met Tomiris of Scythia. Though we had few excess amenities left, we traded what we had for gold and incense. We also took back Ayacucho, this time for good. In 1190 AD, we showed the world our hussars. The next turn, Hungarian troops stormed the Australian capital city of Canberra. Exploring further east, we met Scotland. We were pretty darn powerful at this point, but founding the city of Debrecen put us over the top in the eyes of historians. It made us feel good, and so we decided to advance on the Inca once again. Chan Chan was the first target. Chan Chan was a new city and pretty much just in the way, so it fell easily. For such a small town, they were remarkably loyal to the Inca. Our early assault on the Inca was successful, and we even poached another settler. In 1270 AD, Melbourne fell. Now able to sail across oceans, our religious units discovered new lands and new city-states. Particularly keen on establishing ourselves as the suzerain of Valletta, we plugged in the diplomatic league card to rapidly increase our influence there. All too common when playing single-player Deity is the computer's ability to erect city walls right before one of their cities is about to fall. Brave, but in the case of Geelong, futile. We beat the walls to a pulp and entered the city the next turn. And though the city would have flipped loyalty on its own, we wanted the era score for wiping Australia from existence, as it would help to propel us toward another golden age. The Incan enclave proved difficult to penetrate and prompted a temporary retreat of the Hungarian forces stationed there. But with the core of our army now finished with the conquest of Australia, all of our army could concentrate on making the whole of our continent Hungarian. In 1320 AD, our courageous apostles confirmed that the earth was round. I wonder if flat earth theorists play Civ. In 1330 AD, we became suzerain of one of our favorite city-states, Valletta. Using excess faith to improve cities, especially when you're not playing a religious game, is a great way to save on production costs. In 1350, we levied Valletta's army, but not really to act as soldiers, and more of a cheap way to earn envoys so that we could assure ourselves of remaining their suzerain. We'd crossed the globe, and even with Australia now out of the game, we seemed short on rival civilizations. There were faint whispers from the far continent of a mountain tribe of strong faith. Swearing it was their ancient lands, Gran Colombia, it seemed, had been bad boys and had seized the mythical capital city of the now almost forgotten Ethiopia. In 1380, we built the Taj Mahal, one of the easiest wonders to build on deity difficulty and one that helps us string together golden ages. In order to ensure Valletta's safety, we made peace with Scotland. After centuries of cross-continental warfare with Indonesia, we finally made peace. Trading amenities was going to help us stabilize our economy and help us to overcome the Inca and their deadly cannons once and for all. We did the same with Scotland and felt that with our economy in the black again, we'd be able to steamroll over Pachacuti. In 1480, we built Kilwa Kisawani in the city of Sydney. Kilwa is a tough wonder to build before the AI, but if you manage it, especially if you're hungry and you are playing a game that leverages city-states and their bonuses, it can be the difference between victory and defeat. The Incan cannon and city walls had proved too powerful to beat through. The minute we had discovered flight, we purchased an air balloon that would help our bombards siege Cusco and weaken the city out of range of their defenses. We entered the modern era having strung together back-to-back golden ages. Because the Inca had slowed our military progress so significantly, we opted for the heartbeat of steam dedication, hoping to keep a space race victory in our back pocket. Our bombards, able to pummel Cusco's city walls from a place of safety, beat them down enough that, after centuries of futile incursions into Incan territory, our forces eventually overwhelmed the enemy and took the Incan capital. In 1570, we showed the world our thermal bath, a quiet place for our soldiers to relax and feel happy after warring. The Hungarian province of Australia never really saw a moment of peace, with our main forces occupied destroying the Inca. If the Australian independence movement didn't provide enough resistance, once it was quelled, the land was overrun by barbarians and terrorists. In 1580, we took Antawaya. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Caxamarca was the last Incan stronghold, but by now the Hungarians had gained such an advantage in the field that after centuries of hurling sticks and twigs at the city walls, artillery finally blew through and Hungarian troops rushed into the city, putting an end to the Inca once and for all. If we were going to vanquish all of our enemies, it meant engaging in the most difficult form of warfare, cross-continental. We began our operations by founding Solnok on the continent of which could put us on a direct land route toward Scottish cities. We had enough faith and goal to put this new city on the right path forward. 1615 was a banner year for the Hungarians. We built the Venetian arsenal and declared war on Indonesia once again, but this time with an eye to seizing their cities and making them part of Hungary. Great writer Mark Twain and painter Sofonisba Anguissola presented their talents as Hungarians. Our land forces were some of the most feared on the planet. With the Venetian arsenal, built just as we were planning our overseas conquests, it would ensure that we were also the dominant force upon the seas. Indonesia's northern cities were not protected by city walls, and Bima fell quickly. Leaders around the world were not pleased with my warmongering and ganged up on the city-state of Brussels, of which I was the suzerain, and wiped it from the earth. Indonesia could not resist our advance, and we took Nan Madol. We weren't playing for a culture win, but just thought it would be fun to build wonders. So in 1660, we built the Eiffel Tower. Years of lawlessness in the Australian provinces were put to an end when I raided their encampment from the sea. Peace at last. Indonesian cities that were protected by city walls were no match for Hungarian artillery, as the city of Surabaya discovered. Not only were we proving to be a military powerhouse, but we were also a cultural juggernaut as we built the world's first national park. Of course, it is a lot easier to do so when you have built the Eiffel Tower. Doing so also secured for us another golden age. I was not playing a religious game, so these kind of emergencies were unimportant to me. Indonesia was putting up very little resistance, and as we pummeled Makassar's defenses from the land and sea, our troops walked in just as soon as they could slosh through the jungle terrain. You know when you discover that flood barriers are a city center building that you can purchase with faith? This changes everything. But the next turn, Valletta was conquered by my enemies. In 1700, Hungarians founded the city of Eger overlooking Halong Bay on the edge of the Indonesian provinces that would soon call themselves part of the Hungarian Empire. We entered the atomic era having strung back-to-back-to-back golden ages, and again we chose the heartbeat of steam dedication. In 1715, we adopted a Tier 3 government and became communists, focusing our efforts mainly on production and controlling our widening overseas empire. That same year, our forces entered Badung. 15 years later, our troops took the city of Tuban. For God's sake, Venice, you're just in the way. A few shells from my artillery and the walls of Venice were dust, allowing my troops to waltz in. That same year, the bombing of Selkirk began. It was a slow, methodical, but punitive invasion of Scotland. Victory through military might seemed within our grasp, but we were determined to not gift the win to our enemies by offering them a path toward a space race victory, so we ponied up and used our faith to purchase the services of Robert Goddard. In 1755, our troops took Banjarmasin. Though the main force of our army was occupied liberating Indonesia, a single bomber unit and reserves were too much for Selkirk, and we took the city, making our first inroads into Scottish territory. With a couple of veteran rocket artillery and a couple of bombers, we were able to slice through the enemy's defenses, and we took Jambi in 1775. Wow, go Scotland! At least someone put up some effort to defend their city and counter my threat. In spite of their alliance, Scythian towns wanted to be Scottish. Despite their best efforts to defend it, my troops walked into Aberdeen. Soon after, we took Indonesia's capital city. In 1795, we took Palembang. After a meeting of the World Congress in the year 1800, Getarja, in an attempt to remain in the game, took 2 diplomatic victory points. The Congress also decided to reduce the production cost of military units, and Hungary has all the production and all of the weapons, so, they give with one hand and take with the other. We took Baris minutes after the meeting of Congress ended and showed Indonesia where they could stick their diplomatic victory points, straight into the dustbin of history. That's where. Moments later, we took the Scottish city of Perth and seized control of the Scottish island outpost across the Minch. Although we had protected our religion on our own continent, after 1500 years, we finally began to flesh out the final tenets of our religion and chose the stupa building to add amenities. 1800 was a big year. It saw the end of the Indonesian Empire, our expansion into Scottish lands, the growth of our religion, and we also used the talents of Shah Jahan to build the Statue of Liberty. We discovered totalitarianism, and given the situation, we decided to become fascists. It was time to take our war to the Scytho-Colombian Scotch continent. To complete our religion, we chose Crusade. Although no enemy cities had converted to our religion, we were at war, planned to stay at war, and Crusade seemed the most militaristic of the remaining beliefs, so we chose Crusade. We didn't see any real impediments to our future war efforts, but using a little of your faith to convert some cities might make victory achievable that much quicker. Simon Bolivar wanted to know what was up with our advancing troops, so we told him, in no uncertain terms, that he should prepare for annihilation. Our invasion began on the former Indonesian outpost of Banten. As we always do, we built the mausoleum of Halicarnassus. We waited until 1808, which is super late, but the AI never builds it. Plus, it's one of the most useful wonders in the game. In 1808, we made peace with Scythia. They were not our immediate target, and we hoped to spread our religion there so that our later conquest would be more efficient. The next year, we invaded Wigtown and established a beachhead on the Scottish mainland. That same year, we took the Colombian city of Banten, giving us cities to work with from either side of the continent. From there, the siege of Angostura began. We took the city the very next turn. Our forces on the edge of the Colombian-Scottish frontier sent reconnaissance planes into the fog of war and detected a sizable array of defensive forces positioned around the city of Montrose. Pasto fell in 1816. The next year, we took Roxburgh. We were encroaching on Scottish territory with our reserves as quickly as we were advancing on Colombian territory with our veterans. It's amazing what an air force can do. We liberated Kabul and made it part of the Hungarian Empire. The next year, we took Merida and Muscat. By now, we were so far ahead that we were digging everything up from the ground and recruiting all of the great people that we assured ourselves of yet another golden age. In 1822, we took Dundee. By now, we were strong enough that we were not hampered by amenities problems. We were taking towns faster than loyalty pressures could make an impact. However, Colombia was the first to bring GDRs on the scene. They were, however, unequipped to defend against an airstrike, still pretty weak at this point. Our apostles began proselytizing inside Scythia, and Tomiris took notice. We took Caracas in 1824. Our forces were still the most dominant on the planet, but Colombia was developing giant death robots fast enough to concern us. In 1826, the city of Chan Chan in the Incan province of our empire built St. Basil's Cathedral. I almost never build this wonder, but we were steamrolling our way toward victory, so why not? The same year, we took the Scottish city of Ayr. We seemed to grow stronger with every victory and every city taken. The walls of Forez were swiftly beaten to a pulp and our troops marched on the city. In 1828, recognizing the history of an independent Ethiopia, free from Colombian tyranny, we took the capital city of Addis Ababa and integrated it into the Hungarian Empire. Scottish and Colombian giant death robots came to liberate Scottish lands, but they were no match for Hungarian air power and we took the Scottish capital of Stirling. In 1832, we adopted a Tier 4 government and chose corporate libertarianism with a focus on continuing our military operations and increasing our revenue. We needed to get our own GDRs out into the field. The same year, our forces took Guayaquil, placing our borders against the Colombian capital city of Bogota. The next year, we liberated Valletta and, as with Kabul, we explained that instead of being independent, they were better off being Hungarian. In 1834, we took Panama and Edinburgh. Our forces had penetrated deep into the heart of Colombia. Citizens of Guayaquil were not pleased and revolted, flipping to free cities. But we walked right back in. They'd get the point eventually. Our apostles were busy evangelizing our beliefs in Scythia in preparation for a Holy Crusade, and in 1836 we converted Pokrovka, once the holy city of Islam. In 1838 we took the Colombian capital of Bogota. In 1840, while mopping up the remnants of Colombian cities, we liberated Cahokia from Colombian tyranny, and, like Kabul and Valletta before them, we explained why Hungarian tyranny was the preferred tyranny. In 1842, Scythia and Colombia teamed up to declare a religious emergency against my religion after our conversion of the holy city of Pokrovka. They had to know it was too late, right? We'd completed our religion and included Crusade as one of our beliefs for the purpose of conducting a holy war against Scythia. Still, we went about liberating our cities from heathen religions and, in the process, in 1844, converted Majapahit, the ancient holy city of Hinduism. We would discover later that it probably wasn't the wisest decision. Only moments later, we took Kostromskaya, founded by Scythians but under the stewardship of Scotland, and in so doing, eliminated Robert the Bruce and his Scots from the game. Despite our efforts to win the game before the advent of the information age, we were unsuccessful, but we did string back-to-back golden ages, overshooting our era score requirements by a whopping 70 points. With the dawn of the new age, we built the biosphere just to show off how enlightened we were to the rest of the world, which at this point was mostly Hungarian anyway. Tomiris asked if we were thinking about destroying her, and we confirmed her suspicions. In 1848, we built the Bolshoi Theater, gaining some free civics along the way. Not like we needed them. We were surprised when, with our elimination of Simon Bolivar from the game, without taking a single Scythian town, we won the game. It was not through our military prowess that we achieved victory. In converting Scythian cities in preparation for a holy war against them, they instead bowed in worship to our deities, a cunning way to survive history. As for Hungary, although it was not how we expected, we proved that we had built a civilization that would stand the test of time. So what did I learn? Though the Incan Empire was small from a land area standpoint, they were nonetheless resilient and incredibly difficult to break down. Of all the nations that stood between us and victory, it was they who put up the strongest resistance. They may have been too small a nation to win in their own right, but had they been able to stall my military advance any longer, it may have opened opportunities to other nations like Scotland or Colombia to win the science game. The Hungarian unique ability to use city-state troops is the key to the Hungarian domination victory strategy. Trade early resources, save gold, levy city-states, and conquer your nearest neighbors. Just ask Australia. Victory over the Inca came down to the 1,000-year war of the Mexico City desert. The Inca were well fortified, but we had the allegiance of Mexico City behind us to fall back to, as well as strength in numbers after defeating Australia, that we were able to take the day. Indonesia had their own continent which both helped and hindered them. By the time I was ready to invade, they had not been able to advance quickly enough to mount much of a resistance. Local disputes prevented Scotland and Scythia from establishing themselves as the main force of the south in the New World continent. Colombia, having conquered Ethiopia and absorbed several city-states, seemed the major power in the region. Although they were ahead scientifically, the force of our Navy and Air Force, along with our veteran battle-hardened land units, overwhelmed them. Establishing a beachhead from across the Minch, we launched our airstrikes and beat down the Scottish in the west, while our Navy hit Colombia in the east. From here, all victory conditions were on the table. It's not always about religious pressure and converting holy cities that leads to a religious victory. By preparing for war, we actually brought about peace. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to keep playing and making your own civilization stories, your own amazing paths through history, and I'll see you next time.